So we're moving on to the date and times section. All right, so that's our last sort of section of this top part for the moment. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to make some changes in my HTML, and I'm going to go ahead and replace these commas with a tag called a line break, or a BR. Okay, and we got to watch out for that. And some tags, right? So BR is one of them. It's a single tag item because it's not really surrounding some other piece of content to explain it, right? Like the LI does in the line. It just is going to insert a line break wherever it's occurred, right? So I'm going to go ahead and manually put those in. Okay, and if I save that, we come back, right? And now they're all stacked. Okay, great. So next thing, I just want to change the date, right? And I'm going to use Command D, right? And that will select the same item, right? So I selected 2017, and now every time I hit Command D, I will work through the file top to bottom and select all the 2017s. And then I can just change them to 2021. Change them all at once. So all that's great. Okay, there we all are. All right. So that's all good. Now, if I look at the design, if we sort of circle back to that. All right. And if you can see right here, right, I have this pale white box around all the text. Okay, so I want to be able to control that in a single class. And so rather than putting the class on like the div and the UL, right, this div is keeping the H2 and the UL together. It's that kind of a group, and then the UL. So I'm going to add an additional set of divs outside. Let's go. And I'm going to give this a class of date list. Okay. And I'm going to do 2 of them. All right, so there's the 2, and then I'm going to move right that container, and then I'm going to move my UL. Okay. All right, that's good. All right, so then that gives me, right, this is going to be the white box that contains each of them, so I can apply the style. It'll apply to both. Yeah, and as you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, I probably don't need this inner div. Just having them both in divs will be enough. Okay. And that's that, and that's that. But you know, what I am going to need to do is I have the wrapper for this section, but I want to make, I want to move the row off of that, so it'll just be easier for me to manage. So, I'm going to put the class of row here, move my 2 here, and I'm going to get rid of it there. Okay, so now I have the section wrapper. Let me move this back a little bit. Then I've got my row, and inside the row I have my 2 boxes. Inside the box I have my H2 and my UL, and just my UL. Okay, all right, I think that, right? Doesn't look like a whole lot has changed, but structurally now I have a better nested set. So going over it again, just a wrapper on the outside. Then within the wrapper I have the row. Then I've got two date lists, and the one date list has a title with an H2 and then a list, and the other one just a list. So all structured now the same, giving me all the stuff I need to grab. And I want to call this whole thing a date section, right? So I'm just going to make it in a class this time. That's fine. And then, will I need to do anything with the row? I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Oh, yes, absolutely. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm going to give this a thing called date time, because what I'm going to do here is I want to be able to use my first of type and last of type to work on these divs. So I want something I can grab onto in that container. So, all right, so I think I got everything in place here. And as I go through this, I'll come back and forth, right, to sort of show how this is coming together. Gonna start with working with the date time. Okay, get those placed up. And I'm going to target the div and use the first of type. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to push the margin on the right because I want to move the second paragraph over. So I'm going to use margin right, and we're going to go 200 pixels. Let's save that. All right. And here, right, I've put the margin right here, and that has pushed out the type here. So while I do this, I'm going to turn my red lines back on, just so you kind of see what is happening. Okay. All right, so this is the margin, right, that I've just pushed out, and I'll just go ahead and change that just so you can sort of see what's going on. So I'm going to say this to 50 pixels, save that, right, and there it is. It's gotten much smaller, right, so space is pushing out there. So back to 200. Okay. And I don't want it flush, right up to the top here. So I'm going to do margin top of 20 pixels. And I'll just move these over to tab. All right, good. Okay, so that one's pushed down. And I'm only dealing with this first paragraph. Like, I'm not touching this paragraph just yet. But now that I'm doing this, I want to sort of keep this thing orderly. So I'm going to copy my section, add this here, and this is, what did I call this section? Date section. So let's use that. And it's a class of date section styles. Okay. All right. I'm also going to want to deal with that last of type. So date time, last of type. And the spacing is just different. I'm going to do margin top. That's right. I'm not going to, don't care about the right side. But margin top I can use, and so I'll use 40 pixels there. All right, pushing that down, getting closer. We've got some, I got a plan here, so the sizes don't quite make sense, but we'll get there. If we look at the list, all right, date and times is too big, so let's work on that. So we're gonna do date time and pick the H2 side of that, and we're going to go with font size of 18 pixels. Take a look at that. That's better. Okay. And now we want to get rid of these bullet points and this indent on both of these. So we have the same class on both ULs, so we can do and we can go list style type of none. Save that. Right now those bullet points are gone. Great. And do padding. And we want no padding on the top. 20px and 20px and 20px. Alright, we'll take a look. Okay, that's pretty good. We got rid of most of the stuff. And we're going to do our date time li and put some margin on the bottom of that. Okay. All right. And now our last step is we're going to move that H2 in, right? Because we're putting padding around, so we got to move the H2 in. And we're going to do that with some padding. Right, and it's going to be, we're going to put a little on the top of it. And nothing on the right, nothing on the bottom, and oops, 20 pixels on the left. Okay, and now that's all lined up. Okay, and this outer, right, this outer box is where our white is going to go. And oops, our daytime LI is not working. That's better. That explains. There we go. That sort of spaced it out, right? We still got to put some on the top there. So we've got top and so right, that's our last of type, so that will go right here. And we're working with 12 pixels, so we save that. Okay, right, so now we've got them all spaced, we've got everything aligned, we've got padding wrapping around them all. Okay. All right, I don't need the red lines anymore. I can go turn those off. Okay, so we're in pretty good shape. So lastly, right, if we take a look, right, so date list is what we're going to target. Because that's the class that's on both paragraphs, backgrounds, okay. And I can do the background color, right? And I can reuse the RGBA, but this time I'm going to go 255, which is what white is. 255, and I want my to be 0.45. Okay, let's take a look. Perfect, right, there it is. Okay, and again, I figured out this value previously, so I have it written down as to what I want. When you're working this yourself, you'll end up tweaking these. Okay, and I think, all right, so but I'm running into a little problem now, right? And you're right, I'm sort of getting scrunched up here at the end. And that's because, right, when I scale this window, my image changes size, right? If I had a bigger monitor, right, a little smaller monitor, a little smaller. So there are some limits, right? And so what I want to do is I want to keep my image fluid, right? So it can resolve, it's contained, right? If you remember from the earlier lecture. So I'm going to set some minimums on my image. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that. So that's all the way back up here, right? So long ago. Where is it at? There it is, right? So I'm going to do a min height. Actually, I'm just going to do a min width and see. Let's see if that'll fix it. So min width, right? But I want 1080px. Okay, so let's see, right? So that's pushed far enough. Not quite. Okay, so let's do min height of 816. Oops, 16px. That looks better. There we go. Okay. All right. So now it'll hold itself together, right? And when we do the responsive, you know, we'll deal with these versions, right? And make our modifications so that this tablet size may be here, and then our phone size stacks and looks a little bit better. But we'll do those in another series of lectures coming up. Okay. But overall, looks pretty good. All right. We've got our hovers, we've got our button, paragraphs, right? Layout with color. So we're in pretty good shape overall. These things are running a little long, so I'm going to go ahead and restrict those a little bit. Right, those are my date list paragraphs, and I'm going to set a height of 60%, right? And that percentage is of the space available. So let's see how that's better, right? So I can see a little bit. And if they're on a bigger monitor, right, they'll shrink. There we go. Perfect. Much better. Okay, great. All right. So we're all set with this top section. So we'll move on to the next section in the next video.